Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. For today's Thriller Thursday, I'm going to be talking about the unsolved case of Elisa Lam. So before I start, I just want to say that I mean no offence by making these videos. I'm just doing it for educational and awareness purposes. So Elisa Lam was a 21-year-old college student from Canada and was on her own doing a West Coast tour of America. On the 1st of January, she checked into the Cecil Hotel in downtown LA. So at first, she was staying in a sort of shared accommodation room with some other roommates, but they actually had to move her as the other roommates were complaining about her odd or strange behaviour. They ended up moving her into her own room, and some of the weird behaviour can actually be seen in this footage of her in a lift. So this footage is actually very strange. First you see her getting into the lift, and then it looks as if she's pressing all of the buttons to all of the floors of the building. The doors don't seem to close either, so then she looks outside and then quickly comes back in, and it looks as if she's trying to hide in the corner of the lift. She then looks out of the lift again and she looks scared while she does this. She then gets back in the lift and then out again and starts doing some really weird hand gestures, whether she's doing this to someone who we can't see. After all of this, she just walks away from the lift and then the doors finally close, and this was actually the last time Elisa Lam was seen. On the 19th of February, 18 days later, the hotel started getting some complaints about the water pressure being really low and that it was a funny colour and tasted a bit odd. So a staff member went up onto the roof and checked the water tanks. He climbed the ladder of the water tanks, and when he looked in, he actually found the body of Elisa Lam. So when he found Elisa, all her clothes were floating around her and she was actually naked. What was strange about her being in the water tanks was that it was pretty much impossible for anyone to access the rooftop where the water tanks are without a staff member card, otherwise you'd set off the alarm. There was also a fire escape leading out onto the rooftop, but you have to climb through a window to do so. Even if this was possible, once you're on the rooftop you have to then climb onto the platform where the water tanks are and then climb a 10-foot ladder to actually get into the water tanks. The water tanks also have a £20 lid on top of them as well, which would have had to been removed. Even if she did do this herself, once you're in the water tank you would have then had to pull the lid back on top of the tank, which would have been extremely hard to do so while being inside. The hotel she was staying at, the Cecil Hotel, was a really dodgy place in itself, and a lot of bad things had already previously happened there. Richard Ramirez, also known as the Night Stalker, and his copycat both stayed there while they were committing their crimes. Also, Elizabeth Short, also known as the Black Dahlia, stayed at this hotel before she died. This hotel also had multiple suicides take place there, one being where someone jumped from their window and landed on someone who was walking by and actually killed both of them. Some people say that this hotel was also haunted, so overall this hotel is just a really not very nice place, and a place that I certainly wouldn't want to stay at. So this is pretty much all of the information on the case. I'm now going to go over a few theories. One theory is that Elisa was actually on drugs, which may explain the way she was acting in the lift. These drugs may have made her hallucinate and think that someone was there following her, which was why it looked as if she was hiding and sort of looking really scared in the lift. But this theory doesn't make sense, as after her body was examined there was a report that no drugs or alcohol were present in her system. But Elisa did have bipolar, so she may have been having an episode or hallucinating due to the disorder. A theory is that Elisa may have committed suicide due to being depressed. Elisa also had a Tumblr account where she was very open about being depressed and having bipolar, so it is possible that she did commit suicide. Another theory is that Elisa was possibly murdered. Some people believe that it may have been a staff member who could have murdered Elisa. Some people think this because the footage of Elisa in the elevator, it looks as if a minute's sort of missing from this footage, and a staff member would have had access to erase this. And they are also the only people who have the passes to access the rooftop, which was maybe how she got up there. Also in the footage, the lift doors weren't actually closing while she was inside, so someone could have been stood on the outside preventing them from doing so. This may have also been why she kept looking out of the lift and making hand gestures. A staff member would have also known exactly where the security cameras are, which is maybe why they're not seen in the footage. But one thing that makes it seem as if this may have not been murder is that in Elisa's autopsy there was no signs of physical trauma. Another theory is to do with the film Dark Water from 2005, and this film is very similar to Elisa Lam's death. It contained the same sort of details as Elisa Lam's death, where people were complaining about the water being a strange colour and tasting funny, and when actually checking the water tanks there was a body in there as well. In the film there was also problems with the lift, and the main actor also seemed as if they were talking to an imaginary person, and they also wore similar clothes to Elisa as well. So it may have been possible that someone was trying to recreate this murder, or that Elisa was trying to recreate the movie. The next theory is on the paranormal, and this goes with the fact that the hotel was apparently haunted. This theory suggests that when Elisa was in the lift pressing all of the buttons, she was actually possessed, and this possession caused her to commit suicide. Several people had previously complained that they were choked in mid-air, and someone actually died of choking or of being choked, and their killer was actually never found. Another theory with this is that Elisa was actually playing the Korean elevator game. This game involves using a lift to travel to another dimension. I'm not sure how the game works, so I will pop a picture of the rules on the screen. Not that you want to try it out, I doubt. So some of these games say that when you return from another dimension, you're confused and you're not really sure what's going on, which maybe led Elisa to go to the rooftops and commit suicide in the water tanks. The last theory is that Elisa was a part of a tuberculosis test cover-up. So apparently while she was staying in the hotel, there was a tuberculosis outbreak in the downtown LA area. The odd thing about this test that was being carried out on people with the illness is that it was actually called Lam Elisa. The main drug that can treat tuberculosis is said to cause hallucinations and strange behaviour, which may explain Elisa's behaviour in the lift if she was being treated for this illness. But the reports after her death say that there was no drugs in her system. This goes on to the next theory, that maybe Elisa Lam never actually existed, and that she was just a cover-up for the government-funded testing of tuberculosis. Some people believe this, so when you search Lam Elisa for the tuberculosis testing, you'd just get flooded with reports on Elisa Lam's death instead. So that is all of the theories. I'm not really sure what I think. The autopsy report said the death was accidental and caused by drowning. So I sort of think that, but I also sort of think that she may not have existed, and it may have been because of the tuberculosis testing. But let me know what you think down below, and if you have any other theories. Also, let me know of any other cases you may like me to cover in the comments down below. And I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. And I'll see you in the next one.